Alex asked me to drive his rig to our annual off-roading trip, and I told him I wouldn't break it. That was a lie. Actually, it was a lie twice. I also wanted to sneak a little surprise onto the ML, so without asking, I just went ahead and cut it up, wired it, and brought a camera so you could watch. By the end of the day, you'll know what exhaust cutouts are, how to use them without making your car sound like a metal trash can, and what happens when you send a luxury AMG into places it really has no business being. Also, yes, we will break 2 of his rigs. You will see the carnage. We filmed everything because this is how you learn what actually survives and what doesn't. A quick history so this thing doesn't feel like random abuse. Alex and I have been dragging this 2003 ML55 AMG around for years. Before the lift, before the bumpers, before the weird tires, this thing was just a fast mall crawler. We turned it into a winter hammer, built off-road bumpers, stuffed on off-road rubber, and then shoved in a Jeep JK transfer case so the annual transfer case funeral would stop. That part mostly worked. Now, Alex is the guy who adopts cursed projects and then keeps driving them until they bite him. You all know his channel, Legit Street Cars, and go watch his version of the trip if you want the edit with about 40% more excuses and a slightly cleaner haircut. But what we're doing today sounds simple on paper. We installed electric cutouts, a proper chew merge Y to keep the tone clean, but cutouts don't just magically turn a stock exhaust into a dyno hero. They do one thing very well. They let you decide when you want the truck loud and when you want it civil, and they do that part reliably if you lay them out correctly. I'll show you where to put them and why the merge design matters when you want a full blended V8 voice instead of something that sounds like an argument between cylinders and cheap tubing. But this was never only about sound. We're taking this thing to the Badlands to see if that supposedly bulletproof Jeep JK transfer case swap that we did actually holds up when you stop babying it. That is where the real lesson lives. So expect some practical tips, some fabrication talk, and yes, the kind of trail damage that shows you exactly what parts of the drivetrain still hate us. Now, before you see what actually failed, drop your best guesses into the comments of what you think is going to let go first, and if you like honest builds, broken parts, and the occasional mechanical funeral, hit subscribe so we can keep doing dumb projects and sometimes fixing them on the way home. All right, last time you guys saw this car was just before Alex picked us up after we did the transfer case from the Jeep conversion on this thing. Now, he's done a few things to it, but he just let me know recently that he's got a camping trip coming up and he'd like to bring it as well as one of his other newer off-road projects, his turbo Jeep that we did the exhaust on. But he said he might not have enough time to get the things that we had noted completed. So basically, while we were swapping cars around for a few different various jobs that we like to trade off, he dropped this off and said, hey, if you can get to it, that'd be really cool. So we're gonna be going over a few things, as well as maybe changing a thing or two to kind of surprise Alex when we get out there. But we gotta see what we have time for and what this thing needs before we can get to the fun stuff. But basically gonna take a look over it and kind of see if it's safe and if we can avoid any future breakdowns, because I think it's kind of a tradition that this thing breaks on the trail, and I really want to avoid that this time. All right, Cody, so Alex has got this thing back here, wanted to take a look at a few things. Mostly about mounting up his shocks. If you look here, see this worm gear clamp that we've got holding on the reservoir?
Yeah.
He'd like something more maybe on top of the frame underneath this shield.
Okay.
Just basically to bolt it down. I think we could come up something pretty quick, pretty easy like that. Something that just, you know, whether we drill or do a rib nut or find an existing hole, just something to get it out of the way. That was mostly his main concern. Had me look over a few things, but he's gonna have this thing out on the trail and it already gets a lot of looks and a lot of attention, but I thought it might be fun if we did a little something to this exhaust, since we're going to have these shields off. I don't know if you can see this, but you can kind of get to those bolts directly once the shield's off for the exhaust and these pipes here. So what I'm thinking is we do another out of the scrap bin type deal and do something that basically, since this is an off-road used car only, eliminates these guys. So whatever section of pipe we have laying around that can fit on there, even if it's over, even if it's not our best work, that eliminates those. But what I think would be really funny is if we could get a valve somehow in this section that crosses the two over. Thinking if this clamp rotates and we came straight out here, we could have the valve here because we have so much ground clearance. Almost like a Y, or just two parts that go in there and then Y it out here. If I didn't tell them and then I showed up and we hit the button and this thing was...
That might be pretty cool.
Sounded like a V8. Pretty mean. It'd probably be pretty fun. He's got this Jeep transfer case in here. This thing's lifted, so I just feel like it needs something a little more, but he's not really wanting to do a full exhaust on this thing, and I don't really think, I mean, look how muddy this thing got. I don't really want to do it either. It's just going to get messed up. But I think it'd be pretty neat if we could get a dump out of here, but you probably see the same problem I do. Where do you dump it that's not two valves? Right? I mean, maybe behind the muffler, but I don't think that'd be worth doing. I feel like it'd be the most effect if we could just do maybe a fish mouth coming out of here to a Y, and then just kind of hook the whole thing down and out. I'd start by getting those pipes out, chopping out these, I'm pretty sure these are catalytic converters, but for what I'm planning on doing with it as far as the valve goes, we're not going to need those anymore. So whichever way you get that done, I'll give you free range and no judgment on the on the method used.
Okay.
By now, most of you are familiar with exhaust valves, and some of you have heard of electric cutouts, and are probably wondering, is there a difference? Well, a cutout is an exhaust valve, but an exhaust valve isn't always a cutout. Now, the big difference is a cutout is usually dumping the exhaust immediately after the point at which it's opening, where an exhaust valve can be anywhere in the system and is trying to change the sound in a way that has two modes for the driver in order to have one that's louder when they want and one that's more refined when they don't want. So let's talk about the few styles that are out there now, starting from factory. And this has become popular in recent years because the electronic portions have become a lot cheaper. More powerful motors to turn valves, which are in hot, expanding exhaust streams. They get a little tight, they get a little bound up. So you need something that's fairly robust in there. And before, in order to mount that stuff up there with heat, it would be a little bit more expensive. But now, thanks to mass production, things are a lot cheaper. So you see them on a lot of different cars. Pretty much anything that is trying to sell itself as a sports car is using some sort of valve, a dual mode, an active mode, whatever you want to call it. But most of them are electronic, like this aftermarket DPW valve. And if you look, this valve is going to look very familiar. This one has its own sort of electronics inside of the valve, but a lot of them just have the motor, just have the signal. This one actually can pick up on a Wi-Fi signal via the key. It doesn't need a separate box, which is kind of neat. However, a lot of them are just on, off, open, shut, and it's reading a voltage or amperage at the end to know when to shut the motor and when to go back the other way. So you're just supplying on, it's turning itself off, and you're supplying the other way, reversing the signal, and it's going back the other way until it sees a high load, and then it shuts the valve. So it knows the two end stops, giving you an open and closed. One of the older ways to do it was using a vacuum valve, which essentially you could have two ways of doing it. When engine vacuum's high, you can use a valve to essentially pull a vacuum on the actuator and keep it, in this case, it would be open. So higher vacuum, you would want to have some sort of actuator to hold it. Some of the cars were actually having accumulators to hold the vacuum pressure. And then some of the cars would actually, when the vacuum was highest, it would close the valve. So the reverse of this one, it would close the valve, and that would in turn make sure the valve was shut when the car didn't have a big load. So if you think about it, on a naturally aspirated car, the closer you get to atmospheric pressure, the more that is going to release the valve, because high vacuum is going to pull it shut. So essentially, every time you step on the throttle, you'd have the valve opening. The other way they control it, boost pressure, where you have boost as your turbo's spooling up, and obviously a not naturally aspirated vehicle, as boost is pushing harder on the manifold, it's actually pressing open the valve. So again, the more throttle, the more boost you run, the more the valve's going to be open. You could also stick a valve in line in there electronically to change that signal when it's getting there, but they do have drawbacks because of that complication. You can have the valve not open exactly when you want to, which means you have to either add, in a lot of cases they add pumps, they add motors to pull vacuum, they add reservoirs, and as you can see, that gets more complicated. So going to an electronic driven valve can have its benefits, but the problem being is that as the valve body, the more or less throttle blade looking thing inside of there heats up, it is going to be harder to control, and a lot of those motors didn't handle heat well, so you'd have them die prematurely, causing issues. So there's always drawbacks and benefits on running different sorts of valves, but you're going to keep seeing a lot more valves on a lot more cars, and we keep using them at FMU because they do give the driver more variability on their systems, allowing us to dial it in for their tastes. But as far as using the valves in your car, there are better ways than others on how to actually install the valve, weld it in place, mount it up in the exhaust system, and we're going to go over that using Alex's car.
This awesome bolt, it's stuck, so I have to get some motivational tools. Hopefully I don't have to use the fire torch, but yeah, rusty cars, good stuff. Nice, perfection. Now I just gotta do the choppy to that, choppy to that, that and that, and make magic happen. But so at this point, I'm basically gonna put this guy back in its home, and it's gonna go up in there, and then I'm gonna put a straight pipe where the cat was. There's another pipe around here that I cut off that's gonna go to that in this area, generally. And then we gotta figure out how to get a Y pipe where the second cat was, and that's gonna be our dump pipe. You know, there's gonna be a valve there, it's gonna open up, it's gonna be loud, and it's gonna be great. Alex will definitely have a unique shock when he hits a button. So once we do that, we gotta turn it down or something. Haven't figured that out yet. And then the other side is gonna go back into the muffler and it'll be quiet. Yeah. Stuff. All right, so I'm gonna grind the dirt off because dirt doesn't weld. So I gotta cut this because we gotta put a Y pipe in here. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that part. But yeah, cut this, put a Y pipe, put the valve. Yeah. I'm gonna eat it. I need a Y pipe. It's perfect! Yes. Oh God, jeez. Did you see that catch?
Yeah, cat-like reflexes.
All right, so this is the tube after the cat. We got our O2 bung on there already. Y pipe. Yeah, like that. Perfect. Aha! It shall work. Probably. right, it's welded up. As you can see, lovely job. We can throw this guy back up in there, and we're gonna make this side a squeeze clamp so we can leave this in there forever. Let's do that. And now for the fun part. This is always a challenge for some reason. Easy, good stuff. Okay, so now that we got this guy welded on there, I'm gonna clamp this back in there with the V-band. This guy slides into a sleeve that I made. We're gonna weld this guy on, and then we're gonna figure out either a 90 or a 45 off of this. That way it's just gonna dump down to the ground. Give it. So I discovered I don't wanna weld this anymore. I wanna weld this guy and then make this a slip fit and put a clamp on here, because it's gonna be way too difficult to get this whole setup off, because torsion bar, frame, transfer case, frame, stuff, there's so much stuff in the way that it's just not gonna be ideal if you have to remove this to remove the transfer case or whatever it may be. So I'm just gonna put a clamp on this guy. I'm gonna weld this guy, put a 90 for the dump on that, and then we should be good. Oh, it's hot.
All right, let's go over the game plan and why I'm even doing this. Now, this isn't something that Alex asked for. This is something that I'm doing kind of for myself, if that makes sense. Alex asked me if I would drive this car down because he's going to be taking the Jeep, and he'd like this car to come as well. Now, in the past, I've taken the Shop LX 470. This time, taking Alex's car, I needed to make sure some things were squared away. Now, you guys remember we did the transfer case from the Jeep, so Alex really hasn't driven it a ton since that time. We're going over a lot of the maintenance, things that might pop up on a 200+ mile journey, but the fun part that I think I wanted to add was doing an exhaust valve cutout on this car. Now, being, again, this isn't something Alex was looking to do. I wanted to do it, and I think I'm gonna surprise him with it, but just because they're exhaust valve cutouts doesn't mean you could just slam them in there. And I'll kind of show you why, but let's go over what Cody had to do here first, starting with the exhaust manifold. You guys can see the exhaust manifold goes directly into this looped pipe here, which goes down. You can see that this thing's been getting hit with mud, heating up, and that mud is caked on there. We'd probably be able to blast it off, but Cody still had to remove these bolts in order to get down to the pipe. And being, as much as we wanted to reuse the piping that was on here just to make things simpler, we had to use what was available here. Cody found some stuff, and this isn't our typical high-end fabrication job because this car is a little bit of a rat. Alex knows that. Actually, the transfer case was butting up against the exhaust. It was all the way over here. I don't know if you guys remember from the video where we did the transfer case, we had to shave a bracket off, but this gives us a lot more clearance and a better approach to essentially hit the valve, which on the driver's side, we have here. Now, like I was saying, there's a few ways to add exhaust cutouts, and a lot of the times when you get them from the aftermarket, you're gonna see something like this. Now, this is a fish mouth pipe that essentially goes over another section of pipe, allowing you to just cut a hole and weld it on there. That works. However, here's the thing. Anytime you do a angle that bisects the path, you are gonna get it a lot louder because you have no muffling. But if you think about it, this isn't the straightforward path. This is following the pipe and it's being diverted, meaning the sound wave will bounce in there, but it's not the main direct route that you want to bounce into if you're trying to go for cleanliness and loudness. And if you remember, we talked about the importance of running a true Y on the small changes exhaust video. So as you can see, we bisect here, going back to the original, which then goes into the muffler. So running a cutout this way is going to give us a little bit cleaner of a tone, but again, because we're running a cutout, and really anytime you run a valve, when you have a flap inside of that valve, that is going to create turbulence to the exhaust note. So we have one on each side. We are splitting it. It's just not going to be the cleanest note coming out loud. Now you can do loud and clean, but what we're trying to do here is basically just quick and dirty, but as clean as we can get it. My idea is to have this thing on the sly and be hitting the button when Alex doesn't expect it, to see if I could catch him saying, you know, what's going on with my car? Why is it so loud? I think it's going to be pretty fun, but you can see some of the joints Cody had to make in order to work with the factory stuff and still get it on there. Again, the idea was more or less quick and dirty. Any of the shop stuff, because Alex didn't ask for it, I'm more or less taking care of it myself. And on something like this, it's more about functional, although we still did use stainless steel. Just some of the welds ended up being MIG, which isn't something we typically do unless we're doing exhaust repair, something that a customer is just looking to get a hole fixed that he has. And that's more on the maintenance side. But anytime that we put our name behind an exhaust, it's going to be TIG welded, fully back purged, and doing the cleanest sort of pipe angles that we can. This isn't that car, but it should be a lot of fun still. All right, we took care of some maintenance items that honestly would have kept this car from being road legal. I blame it on Alex not needing to drive this car the past 2 to 3 trips. He's trailered it, but now I've got to drive it. So I needed to make sure things were taken care of, like some brake light bulbs, some maintenance stuff, some rocks in the brake shields, and other things that I don't want to run into. Loose control arms, everything got checked over, everything got tightened up. But honestly, I can't wait till tomorrow when I see Alex's face after I open those cutouts without telling him I did anything. Might try to see how long I can go before he realizes something is changed. All right, we are about to head out on the trail. I made it last night, took about 3 hours. However, didn't run into any issues whatsoever. The car was pretty good, other than I had a little bit of a flapping on one of the panels for the fender liner that we took off. Other than that though, it drove amazing, even over recommended speed limits. I'm actually surprised how smooth it actually was, but I'm here with Alex.
Hey!
We just showed up and we're about to hit the trails, and I guess it's me versus you in a Euro versus, was this a Daimler product?
Yeah, well,
back in the day,
04,
right?
So this was, yeah, this was the Mercedes merger time.
This would be,
they're brothers from very different
That's
mothers.
so weird saying, right?
Yeah, it is weird.
I guess we're gonna find out which one.
Well, you got Jeep parts now, so
we do have Jeep parts, so.
And I got a Mercedes intercooler.
And you got Mercedes intercooler and closer to Mercedes power.
Yeah, that's right.
So this will be a pretty even matchup. Actually, pretty interesting.
Definitely. Let's do it.
All right, Alex is on the phone. I'm gonna open this up and see if he notices. So I've got him open, just sitting here idling. I'm gonna try to keep getting it so he doesn't realize that we've done anything to it. And Alex is in front of me, but I'm gonna try to keep doing this as sneakily as I can. Now it's shut again. Back to quiet mode. Him right there. See his Jeep?
Hello, Jeep.
All right, we're just open him up. All right, the challenge right now is we're trying to get over this basically high side rock surface that's right in the center of the car. You got to lift it up over. Alex is going after it.
Here we go.
Right, now we got to shut it. See? All right, Alex still does not know that I've got a cutout in here. I've got him open right now.
Wait.
Oh, yeah, we got like a few minutes to check out this axle breaker place over here? It's like straight ahead. We don't have to actually do anything.
Okay.
All right, it's like right there. It's like right there. Okay, all right, it's right here.
All right.
I'll follow you there. Oh, okay, cool.
So-
It's like a street track.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, off the.
So you don't have to do anything. The rear's limited.
Oh, okay.
It's limited. 3, 2, 1, go!
Another year, another broken ML. This time, it's the transfer case and the oil pan. Put a hole inside of it.
Well, the diff.
The diff. Another year, another broken ML. This time, it's the front diff and the oil pan sliding backwards down a hill. Put a hole in it. You can see right into the engine. It's pretty nasty. Kind of a bummer. This thing was going great up until it wasn't.
There's the hole. Diff totally broken. Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of a bummer end of the day, dude.
It is. It is. I mean, I'm glad it's the end of the day. I'm trying to think of the positives.
The positives are it didn't break because we were abusing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to go around you. You were in the water. You sucked up water in the filter sock, so shut it down.
Shut
right?
it down, yeah.
So here I am thinking, I'm not going to go in the water. I'm going to go around this little embankment, little like.
You were trying to take the easy way out.
I was, and then I couldn't get around, and even then I was like, I'm going to go backwards. And when I went backwards, I started sliding really fast. The hill broke off. But you probably heard me, right?
I thought you were going to tip.
I was basically tipped. The kids start screaming in the car because we're about to flip off. I correct the wheel, but as I correct the wheel, I think there was some trees or something that I hit as I was going into the water, and I felt something underneath the car, but it seemed okay when I came out.
Yeah.
And I went under the car, thinking water's dripping from it, and it was.
I thought it was the differential.
It was
yeah,
oil.
You see the diff mount is broken. I'm like, okay.
I thought it was diff too, but
it's
I think
attached to the oil pan.
I think
so
it's
now
diff and oil.
It's
Yeah.
definitely oil.
It's definitely oil. Oil level light that's on. You can
Yeah.
see a hole into the pan, which
Like a
is
6-inch
insane.
hole, but,
you can see the rods, the caps.
Yep. But if any engine can run for a couple minutes with no oil, it's.
I'm telling you, it felt smooth before I shut it
it's
down.
the M113.
It felt smooth before I shut it down, so I don't think anything got messed up. I think I shut it down in time.
Hopefully, oil pan, diff, maybe an axle or something, and.
I think I'd feel better if I was sending it, you know?
I know.
And I think that's why I'm mad, because I was trying to take it easy.
Well, the good thing is we have the Escalade in a trailer, and the Jeep is good.
Drivable?
I'm gonna leave the Jeep alone now. We're not
Alright.
gonna take that out anymore, so the Jeep can be driven, and
It could be worse, but
it could be way
It
worse.
could be better, but it could be worse.
yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
We're here to tell the story.
So I must be bad luck. Alex is running to get a radiator for his Jeep. I noticed it started climbing up. I said, we probably should pull over and do something about it. And when we pulled over, the radiator blew up. Now, I'm not sure if there's maybe some mud blocking the airflow and we're getting it going at steady state, so it's just causing a little bit more trouble than the thing's used to, because he beat on this thing all day yesterday. But sometimes when you're going at speed for a long distance, it could be a little more stressful on the cooling system. Hopefully there's not some other issue going on. But yeah, he's off, 40-minute drive there and back. And I'm gonna pull apart the radiator while he's headed out. So wish me luck, wish him luck. But we'll see how this goes. Every car that I've touched so far has had an issue. Hopefully this radiator will be enough to get it on the road again. That's the crack right there. You can see it. And the radiator is actually pretty easy to get off. So this will be a nice little job. All right, radiator's out. Doesn't look too plugged up with mud. Could be an airflow issue, I hope. Maybe the intercooler is a little stopped up. Hard to say. Hopefully we throw this in there and it's okay. Now, when I was driving the car, I noticed it had a pretty good wobble in the rear end. It wasn't really translating to the steering wheel too much. So I'm gonna try to pick some mud out while I'm waiting for Alex, because this wheel got pretty caked up. And I could definitely feel it. Not something I want to drive with, especially once you got over 60 miles an hour. So I'm going to spend some time here. Look at all this weight. You got to think that this is essentially like balancing a wheel, except reverse when you got mud in there. So I don't want to scratch up his wheels. I'm trying to use something with a flat edge, but at the same time, I don't want to drive it like this. Yuck, look at that. Off-road life. Look at all that mud. Eerie, very quiet. All right, the great thing about off-roading is that there's a good community of guys that'll just stop and try to see if you're running into trouble. I got, what was your name again?
Bob.
Bob, this is Bob. He stopped, he's got this whole rig, trailer with all sorts of toys. And his brother,
Brother, yeah.
brother, Bill here too. So they just wanted to help me. Unfortunately, Alex is, well, fortunately for you, he's on his way back. We got the radiator. I think we got everything we need, but that's just the awesome thing about, you know, going out to the Badlands, breaking shit, and then having somebody that usually will give you a tow or stop and check on you guys.
Oh yeah, yeah. We just left the Badlands. We figured you were there too. So
Yeah, we seen you guys wheel through the parking lot. I was like, hey, we seen this Jeep. I wonder if it's the same one that...
yeah, and then rolled up here and it's got a little turbo in there too. So
Yeah, unfortunately, it was nothing cool that broke. It just split the radiator, you
Yeah.
know, so I think at speed. But we'll see. Hopefully, we're going to toss this thing in and it won't be overheating anymore. Thanks, guys. Thank you. All right, Alex is back, and we've got a shiny new radiator. Looks like it's the right one, although it does have automatic trans cooler fittings on the bottom. But it does have these fittings that you could put in there. Duralast, very nice. And this thing just has to go back in. I got to find all the screws and bolts, and we are going to go tear this thing in there and get it back on the road. You got to watch the wires going in, and those wires have to be tucked in front of it.
oh
The big,
yeah, these over here.
Yes, but also the bundle there.
Got it. Okay.
And then I got a slot. So can you grab the radiator now?
Yep.
Okay, I got to slot this guy down here.
All right.
Oh, you left the bolt in on that side. That's nice. Oh, this one's not slotted.
Okay. Oh wait, it is. Fuck, you got that bolt?
I do. Here. I'm gonna go underneath Alex.
You guys are wondering, our sons are the camera crew right now.
Am I in? I might be in. I might be in. Ow.
So I messed up and didn't get gallons of water. I thought I was going to find a store and never did. They literally had us come.
I might have a few bottles.
I have some bottles too. I also have, I did get one bottle of antifreeze, but we can also drain from the ML and just steal all that.
And the ratchet, and I'll do the
top ones?
the gun. I think get those. Oh, I just took it apart. Feel about it. That's right. Giovanni, where'd you put that? Oh, I guess you don't need it.
Oh, I have
This is what
it. I got it.
You give me this for the bottom, right?
Even the top two.
Yeah.
If we need the extra length. I'm gonna get the two at the bottom.
Oh, you're gonna get the bottom.
Okay.
Okay. And these are the two top ones, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Two top sides or whatever.
All right.
Wherever you can find it.
But also, we gotta be grateful that me and Mr. did not get burned by the radio.
Yeah, we were like right there, dude.
We were right there.
That would have been a
We stepped away,
disaster.
and then it blew up. So,
It literally could have blown up in our faces.
I don't know if someone.
And that'd have been a hospital trip.
Yeah, 100%. So maybe.
Wait, like, it exploded?
It exploded, yeah.
When?
Like right after I pulled over. Alex opened the hood, and then we walked back to show him where the gauge was at, and it blew up while we were looking at the gauge. And we were just over the engine, like our faces were exactly where they're at. And it would have blown up in our faces.
Where's the long needle nose from?
You see him?
Yep.
Okay, good. Why is it 100%?
There you go. Clamp on. That's good.
All right, we are back together. Nice new radiator. I'm hoping that maybe it was leaking a little coolant before, maybe it started splitting and then it started overheating at that point. Hard to say, but I'm gonna drive with the heat on. It's a little warm out today.
92 degrees right
92, but
and it's fall. Like what in the world?
I'll crank the heat up. We'll see how it goes. No AC in this thing. Wouldn't be driving with it on anyway at this point, but we're gonna see what happens. Now, I've asked Alex to let me take the ML back to the shop. However, it's been a few weeks since the incident happened, and we haven't really had a chance to look at it other than just underneath the car that you guys saw when we were on the trail. And looking at it, it is a lot worse than I thought. What happened? What looks like when we were coming down the hill, the differential broke off and spun into the transmission pan, completely breaking off 1, 2, 3 mounts, spinning inside of there, taking a piece of the oil pan out. Now, here's the saving grace of it all. The piece of the oil pan that it took out was actually the highest point, meaning it still had oil in the sump to run the engine. However, there was still some water and some other stuff in there, meaning it was picking up water and oil. So after we noticed the oil level light come on, it was immediately shut down, but it was basically running with a giant hole in it, slinging the oil out until it didn't have enough oil. So we're not 100% sure if this engine's gonna be savable. What I wanna do is pull the oil pan out, meaning getting the differential out, but I don't want to do that job, and this is why we've held off looking at it until we had an oil pan here, because if it's savable, getting at this thing just to get the oil pan out is going to be fairly tricky, and I don't want this to be a 10-way job, in, out, in, out, in, out. If we get that oil pan out enough to look at it, which we might have to lift the engine up in order to do so, I want to be able to put a new oil pan in if everything looks okay, or at least condemn it then. That's what we're gonna do next. So I'm still not exactly sure why this diff failed catastrophically. Was it the fact that the full-time four-wheel drive was in when I was trying to reverse that caused it to break off? Doesn't look like it hit anything, so it looked like something made it shear from its mounts, and that then put the hole from its spinning in the oil pan. And over time, not right away, but over time I noticed that the oil pressure light came on and I shut it down immediately. Now here's the issue. If we lost oil pressure and it was driven for an extended period of time, I would then be doing damage to engine internals. Now, if the engine is toast, that's going to change how we're going to approach this and when we're going to approach this. But because there's a big hole in the pan, I can actually sneak a wrench up there and get the main cap off. It's kind of tight, but maybe I can knock it a little bit. Yeah. And what I want to do is inspect the bearings I could see. Now looking in there, I don't see any discoloration. I don't see anything that looks like this engine was starved of oil, but what I want to check out here is this rod bearing, because if I see really heavy signs of scoring, that's going to tell me this thing got pretty starved and it's probably going to need more than just an oil pan. But you guys tell me what you think yourself. For an engine with over 100,000 miles, that actually looks pretty decent. Maybe it got some more wear on there during that period, but this isn't anything that if I pulled down at this mileage, I'd be like, oh, we need to replace this. Not perfect, but not bad. And I think for this sake, we'll probably just end up going the route of swapping just the pan and not a whole engine. So what actually worked and what went sideways? The cutouts worked exactly like they should. The valves open cleanly, the true Y kept the merge tone cohesive without too much clap or interference. And when the cutouts were closed, it sounded almost stock, exactly how a cutout system should behave. No weird alternating loops, no funky drone cruise, just a deep, balanced V8 voice. And that part of the job is clean and repeatable. Now, if sound is the goal, that solution is basically rock solid. The surprise reveal though, yeah, that got overshadowed pretty quickly. Where we failed was assuming the rest of the drivetrain would play along. We fixed the transfer case a while back by dropping in a Jeep JK box, which stopped the one recurring failure, but it didn't make the ML bulletproof. The front differential turned out to be the weak link. It failed spectacularly on a blind climb and took out the oil pan with it. Now, that's not a failure of fabrication or sound design. It's basically load management. Off-roading a heavy lifted AMG puts stress on parts that were never engineered for it. You can plan around some things, but you can't plan around everything. And that's what true wheeling is about. Running it until it breaks and then building it stronger so it doesn't the next time. Now, as far as the costs and trade-offs go, the exhaust, parts, and labor are small potatoes compared to a shredded front diff and dropped oil pan. I planned this as an exhaust reveal video. I said I wouldn't drive it hard. It wasn't even my car. My cautious plan to take a blind hill over thigh-high water ended up wrecking all of that and keeping the annual Break Alex's ML tradition alive. Disappointing? Sure. Embarrassing? Yeah, but here's the thing. It's the stuff that goes wrong that sticks with you. Getting tested on the side of a trail, the sun beating down, figuring out how to keep it moving. That's when you find out what kind of mechanic you are and what kind of friend you are. That lesson is worth every bent piece of metal and every exhaust plan that didn't go your way. This is an expensive hobby, and sometimes your cutouts, your tone, your sound, your goals, all of that gets overshadowed by reality, and that's okay. Chaos is what makes the memories worth it. But finally, the surprise Jeep radiator fail on the home ride was a reminder that backups break too. We replaced a cracked radiator on the road and kept it moving. Mechanically, it tells you something about redundancy and improvisation. Culturally, it tells you everything about why we do this. You don't remember the runs that go perfectly. You remember the runs where you cursed, you learned, and you still laughed at the end. The exhaust reveal did still what we wanted it. It sounded massive and true, and fun. And the trail reminded us that the builds are compromises, and sometimes the best lesson is humility. I said it before, this hobby is expensive but brutally honest. It gives you the excitement you want and occasionally hands you a bill that you didn't see coming. The good news, the ML's V8 survived the oil pan hit and looks salvageable, and I'm sure you will see us tackle that in an upcoming video. The bad news, we now have repair stories that'll only get longer with every shot of tequila we pour. Now, if you've ever had a trip where the thing you planned to show off was completely upstaged by something breaking, drop it in the comments. Tell us about the worst roadside surgery you've pulled off. Humble brag or serious answer, I'd like to hear it. And while you're at it, go watch Alex's edit on legit street cars. He blames me in one of the shots. Count how many times and report back in the comments. And if you like the cutouts and want details on true wide, well geometry, or actuator wiring, mention it in the comments below and we'll make a tech-focused clip. If you like the chaos more, tell us that too, and we'll keep doing it as long as it's entertaining and we've got enough parts to cannibalize. Stay loud, stay curious, and we'll catch you next time.